Becky, and today I am going to show you how to bind a quilt step by step. We're going to start by preparing your binding, attaching it to the quilt, and then finishing it off for that nice polished look. So let's get started. First, let's talk about binding strips. I've cut mine at 2.5 inches wide for a standard double fold binding, but you can also use 2.25 inches if you prefer a narrower look. And what you're going to do is you're going to join your strips end to end using a diagonal seam. And the reason why we do this is because it reduces the bulk. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unfold my strips. And I am going to place them right sides together at a 90-degree angle. Okay. Now I'm going to be honest, I did not cut my selvages because I'm going to be trimming those anyway. So I just want to make sure that I have a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to pin those. All right, I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew this from corner to corner. Now, if you prefer, you can draw a line. So you know exactly where to sew. Okay. And I'm just going to sew on that line. Now, one of the ways that I remember is that when I go to sew this, this is how I know I'm doing it in the right direction. My short tails are going to be going to the right of my needle, and my long tails are going to go to the left of my needle. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those. Okay. Now that I've sewn, I'm going to just open that up, make sure I like my connection, and make sure that they're going in the correct way. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim that at 1/4 inch and take off my dog ears. Okay. And then I'm going to press this seam open, and then I'm going to fold my binding in half and give it a good press. With your quilt all trimmed and squared up, we're going to attach the binding. So we're going to start by leaving about 10 inches, and we're going to align our binding to the raw edge of our quilt. And I'm going to attach mine to the back side because I'm going to finish it off with a machine binding. If you're going to hand stitch, you may want to attach it to the front and then finish it off with a whip stitch or a ladder stitch. So depending on how you want to do that. But since I'm going to be machine binding, I'm going to go ahead and attach that to the back of my quilt. And I want about 10 inches. And I'm going to start in the middle. Okay, I never want to start at a corner. I want to start in the middle. We're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're going to sew the binding down. And we're going to stop about 1/4 inch before each corner. We're going to back stitch, remove the quilt from remove the quilt from the machine. To create a mitered corner, we're going to fold the binding up at 45 degrees. Okay, so we'll fold it up at 45 degrees, and then we'll fold it forward. Okay, so we have that 90-degree corner around the edge. So this creates that really neat fold that we all love. So, and then we'll continue sewing down the next side. So I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start sewing that. And go ahead and give it a quick back stitch. Clip my, remove that from the machine. Then I'm gonna fold this back. Okay. And notice how my diagonal goes straight to that corner. And then I'm going to fold it forward. Okay. Alrighty. And I'm gonna put a pin in that because I want to hold that in place. Okay. All right, and then I'm gonna sew down the next side. So, and I'm just using a small quilted block that I found in my stash to do this. Give it a little back stitch. Gonna trim my seams. Again, I'm gonna fold that back at a 45-degree angle. Back fold, line it up. Okay, again, now this is a good place if you have some clips. I didn't grab any, but I'm not loving that fold, so let me go back, fold that forward. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, placing that pin in it. On that side. Again, folding that back at a 45-degree angle and folding it forward. Okay. And pinning it down. Oops. And this is my last corner, so folding it back at that 45-degree angle and then bringing it forward again. Okay. All right, now I'm not going to go down the full side because I want to show you how to join your strips together. So, all right, and I just want to kind of get past the corner. Okay, and I'm going to stop it there. Okay, so let me show you how to attach those strips. Okay, when we get back to where we started, we left our gap, but now what I did is I overlapped the tails, and I wanted to make sure that they overlapped by 2.5 inches because that is the width of my binding. So next, what we're going to do is we are going to open up these seams here. Okay, so I'm going to open them and crisscross them again, just like we did when we were attaching them. And then I'm going to sew a diagonal seam and trim those edges. So I'm going to do that and be back to show you how I did it. Okay, so I've opened those up. I've joined my seams. Look at how snug those are. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and trim that about 1/4 inch away to reduce the bulk. I always like to verify before I trim anything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up that seam and then finish attaching the rest of my binding to the side, and then I'll show you how to turn it and attach it from the front. Alrighty, so I have connected, and now I'm going to go ahead and flip that over. Okay, so I'm going to go around my quilt, and since this is a small one, it's pretty easy. Okay, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to clip this down. And I'm going to miter my corners. So when I miter my corners, okay, let me see if you can see that. Let me zoom in. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull those to the side, and I'm going to press it really well, and then I'm going to fold it down. Okay, and when I miter them, what I want to do is I want to make sure that the outside of my binding is touching this one. So I'm going to go and pin that down and press it really well and clip it. And then I'm going to sew around the top of my binding. Now, one of the things I want to remind you of is when I do this, I want to make sure that my binding is overlapping this way. I don't want to catch that seam on my way down. So I want to make sure that I've overlapped it properly. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that down and be back to show you my finished binding. Alrighty, my friends, there you have it. All I did was fold it over, tuck those corners, and top stitch around for my finished binding. So there you have it. It's beautifully bound quilt block, and it's ready to be enjoyed. So I hope this tutorial has helped you feel confident about finishing your own quilts. Remember, like anything new, it takes practice to become proficient. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you've liked this video, go ahead and like and follow, subscribe to us, share with your friends. And until next time, happy quilting.